Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this Matchday -1 press conference with the English team. To my left, the coach, Gareth Southgate, and the second to the left, Joe Gomez, the player who is attending this press conference. Before we start, just to remind you, the 4 official languages, as they are on the board. Only in these 4 languages, please give questions, answers, and just an advice, don't put the receiver into your pocket because it changes channels if you move, so take it outside and then you won't have a problem. From here, I hand over to you for the questions for coach or player. Who starts? Oh, here, up here. We have a hard time to see you because it's very shadowing, but up there, thanks.
Gareth, it's Rob Dorset from Sky Sports News. Nice to see you. How have you and the players reacted? How do you get the squad up for this game?
Well, very simple. We lost an important game on Thursday, and we've got thousands of fans here, and we need to make sure that our performance is one that gives them something back, that we finish the season in the right manner, having had a very good season. And every time we take the field, we're learning things about the players, and we're learning things about how we need to play and how we need to improve. So for us, it's an important match.
Has it been quite deflating, though? Is the mood a little bit down?
Well, it's as you would expect and hope, having lost a semi-final, because we're at the stage now where we know as a team we're close to getting into finals and getting into the opportunities to win trophies, but we haven't got there yet. So everybody's disappointed with that throughout the camp. And what's been encouraging is that it's very clear the players are highly motivated as we go forward, that they know we've got to be spot on in the way that we play and the way that we prepare. And for us as a group of staff, that's the same. So I've seen some positive signs within that response, but absolutely we should be disappointed with the outcome.
Is everybody fit, and might you change the squad around to give some of the players that haven't featured a run?
Well, I will probably have to make some changes. We've got doubts over Chilwell, Rashford, Henderson, a couple of others to be checked as we get into training today. So. But I don't want to make wholesale changes because I think the importance of the match is clear for us, and I think anybody coming into the team needs to come into a fairly stable lineup.
Quick question for Joe, if that's okay. Joe, it's been an extraordinary season for you, a Champions League winner. Now you come here and you haven't got a chance of winning a trophy, but how do you get yourself up for this game?
I think that's easy, really. I think it's never to be taken for granted playing for your country, and I'm still fairly early in my England career, and I definitely am a long way from losing the desire to play for my country or having a lack of motivation. So I think every time you step onto the pitch and in front of the fans and support like we had the other day, it's an easy task, really.
And Switzerland, ranked 8th in the world, we've talked a lot about this competition getting rid of the, in inverted commas, meaningless friendlies. This is far from a meaningless friendly. Switzerland are a proper side and there's a bronze medal at stake. Yeah,
I think you said it yourself. I think it's an important game that's going to be difficult. We played them earlier in the year, and they showed us that it's going to be a tough game, and we know that they've got top quality players that some of us sort of are familiar with, and it's still a game to challenge for, and I think we're in a position where there's 4 teams in the finals here for a reason, and you can't take that for granted.
Okay, next, who is ready for the next question? So let's go here.
Sati Shaker, Empowers Magazine. Gareth, this obviously isn't the resultant match that you wanted to play in, but how important is it still for you as an individual and for English football that the errors that were made in the match against the Netherlands are put right against Switzerland, or is it just a practice session for you that you'll have a look and see who you want to pick for more competitive matches later?
Well, I mean, no England international is a practice match. It's every time you wear the shirt, there's importance for you, for the country, for the supporters, and individuals have opportunities to impress. Individuals have opportunities to make sure their performances keep them involved in the squad, we want to finish the season on a good note with a healthy performance. There were a lot of aspects of our game the other night that were very good, and you could look at it in one perspective and say we were a couple of inches on a decision away from being in a final. But equally, it's impossible to make as many mistakes as we did and win big matches. So we can't correct the errors of the other night, but we have another opportunity to go and play, and we want to make sure that our performance is of a very high level.
Just to follow up on one of the things you said, you're a couple of inches away from being in the final. I take it you're referring to the disallowed goal by Jesse Lingard. Do you agree that VAR is a positive step, or would you like to see it sort of change, any changes in how it is used in order to get the right results, but also to keep the game flowing?
Yeah, I'd like it used on their things and not on ours, really. I think the big decisions have been correct. So it's there to help the referees. Refereeing the game is a very difficult situation. I've said always, personally, I prefer any sport that the referee's decision is final and the players get on with the game. But we now live in a world in all sports where we have technology and people talk about money all the time rather than sport. So those decisions have taken on a new meaning, and therefore they have to be as accurate as they possibly can be. And I think with the VAR, the big calls in the Champions League and in the game the other night were correct. So we have no complaints about the way it was used. It went against us this time. None of their players. It looked as though none of their players thought it was offside. But of course it was, and unfortunately we didn't get the call on that occasion.
Okay, here and then over there.
Gareth, how concerned are you that the similarities between that game and the World Cup semi-final, particularly not being able to maybe see out a game against a top team like that in a big semi-final, and perhaps not being able to control possession in midfield particularly?
I think a different game to the semi-final. We had a period at the start where we weren't able to play through their press as well as we should. But then we had a period where we actually did that well. Beginning of the second half, we were on top with the ball. Then they had a spell where they were on top. We finished the half on top. I think they had a lot of possession without ever creating a clear chance from that possession. All of their chances came from our mistakes, all of them. So that was a little bit of a different scenario to last summer, where we felt that we could have been tactically better, and we stopped trying to play out. We certainly didn't stop trying to play out the other night. Whether we did it effectively is another case in point. But the errors we made weren't because we were trying to play out. They were errors of decision making. And when we played out and played well, the move for the disallowed goal started on our byline, the move for Marcus Rashford's chance in the first half. We played right the way through the thirds of the pitch. So we actually created. If you look, we can talk about possession, but we had possession with a threat to create 3 or 4 chances that actually Holland didn't. But you've also got to give them credit for the way that they controlled certain parts of the game and built some momentum within the game.
Let's go over there, yeah.
Gareth, obviously a lot of progress has been made over the last couple of years, but is the next stage and the next hurdle possibly going to be the hardest one in terms of actually trying to get over the line and get into a final and win something? And also, is that as much of a mental challenge as a physical challenge?
Well, I think every step along the journey you have, the next challenge, and it's always going to be harder than the previous one, because sometimes at the beginning, some of the areas you need to make improvements in are quite easy to identify and are slightly easier to rectify. I think we went through that process again after the World Cup, and we want to finish well tomorrow, but then also we'll review the build up to this tournament, which has been a bit unique in terms of our preparation. But we've got to continually look to progress, and I think the players are on board with that. I think they are also at a point where it's not enough for them to just challenge, which is a healthy sign, because we're steps beyond where we've been over the last 15, 20 years. But none of us are satisfied with that. So whatever happens tomorrow, we'll leave here with a sense of disappointment, and that will motivate us for the next 12 months for sure.
Let's go first this side, yeah.
Over here, sorry. Carrie Brown, BeanymanSports. Can you give us a full update on Marcus Rashford? Is he even in contention for this match? He looked to be limping quite heavily when he left the ground. Yeah,
we're assessing him. As I say, him, Henderson and Chilwell, all of them are doubtful, I'd have to say. So I think you could see the mechanism of the contact as he hit the shot. So we'll have to see, but he is a big doubt, I would say.
And how long could he be out for, do you think?
Oh, I don't think it would be a long-term thing. It's we obviously only have had a 48-hour turnaround for this game, so much more difficult to get anybody back with any sort of injury at all, never mind a more significant one. But it's not, in his instance, I don't believe it's a significant one.
You had 7 players coming back from a Champions League final. We've talked about European campaigns and World Cup campaigns and how the national teams that have the most players in the Champions League really do struggle to enjoy success. What have you learnt about yourself as a manager? How big a test has this been for you, naming that starting 11 and the compromises you've had to deal with tactically?
Well, I think the preparation is obvious for everybody, really. So I don't want to talk about that. We had to make decisions based on the players that had been training with us and seeing the level they were at. Of course, some of those players haven't played as regularly in recent months, but that's the challenges for any manager. You've got to adapt and adjust, and it's very rare that you have the starting team where everybody is available, and that's certainly been the case pretty much every time we've played. So I just think that's part of the challenge you have to embrace as a coach.
And with Ross and John, how have they bounced back from their mistakes this week? Have they shown that resilience?
Well, we've not had the opportunity to see them on the training pitch because yesterday was a recovery session, and then we're training this afternoon, so that everybody's had the maximum possible opportunity to be ready for the training. Clearly, they are disappointed, but no more so than everybody else. We win and lose as a team, and we all feel the pain of the defeat. So I said the other night, it's for me to support anybody that makes mistakes, but we've all suffered from that.
Joe, you had the really cruel blow of missing out on the World Cup last summer. Can you tell us the change in the team when you went back to them? Their hunger, their desire, and their belief. And what's it like being in this team? You're, of course, in the team of Champions League winners. Has this side got the mentality? What did you see after they'd gone to a World Cup?
Yeah, I think one of the massive things for me was the togetherness of the whole camp. I think not just players, staff as well. And I think if you ask any of the players, it's a real pleasure to come here and be a part of the environment and the whole setup. And obviously that's credit to the gaffer and all the coaching staff for creating that environment in the first place, because it's a big part of the game, and it definitely affects how you feel going into the game. So yeah, as you say, it was disappointing to miss out on the World Cup, but it made me ever more eager to get back involved.
So let's turn the side and go to the left.
Okay. Gareth, Joe, hi. A question for the two of you. The England fans were booing Virgil van Dijk the other night, which fans obviously do to a player they respect and fear, maybe trying to put him off. Where does that help the team? Was it counterproductive to the team? Because with a player like Van Dijk, it often makes him play better.
Yeah, I don't exactly know where it was coming from, and I don't see him having done anything wrong, but yeah, I don't think it poses much benefit for us as a team. I think we get on the ball and we play the same way, and yeah, I don't see the relevance in it particularly, but obviously there must have been a reasoning behind it maybe, or none at all, and everyone was just following along, but I don't think it affected us as a team or the way we play, so there's not much to do about that.
I'd say I'm happier they're booing the opposition now than they were booing our players when I started. So I'd say we're making progress. I remember driving through the streets of Malta and, some of the songs that were being sung to us that night. So if Virgil has to take a bit, so be it.
Okay, let's take first row here.
Gareth, how do you deal with the issue with John Stones? Because obviously he's in the limelight after the error the other night. So is your thinking to take him out of the spotlight tomorrow, or do you try and get him to play it out of his system going into that he's got the rest of the summer off to think about it?
Well, I think I'm not looking at him as an individual in terms of selection for tomorrow. I'm looking at the team and the players we want to see and the players that are going to give us the best opportunity of winning the game tomorrow. So in terms of working with him and supporting him, that's of course very important, because that was a difficult night for him. But yeah, there's a longer process to be able to do that. But tomorrow we've got to pick the team that's ready and hungry to play again, and make sure that the balance of that team is right. And that's the challenge for us over the next 24 hours.
Okay, then let's go to the lady up there. Yeah.
Hi. Kevin De Bruyne has defended John and suggested he wouldn't have made the mistakes he made at City because he would have had options, is the words he used. Do you believe that England's players give you the options he's talking about, the kind of Premier League options he's talking about? And do you really believe they understand your philosophy and how you want to play?
Well, I think there's a clear difference in terms of a national association and the time that you have to develop really clinical patterns of play, which Manchester City do as well as any team on the planet. But they work on those every day and have been for 2.5 years. So we are in a different position as a national team. For sure, I would hope that all of our players know how we want to play and have a very clear picture. That's always been what they've said in the past. And then there's whether actually in certain situations it was the options or it was the decisions that were taken. So I understand completely the point that Kevin De Bruyne makes, because Manchester City have a system that works like clockwork, and I repeat, they're the best in Europe at doing that. So, but you can get to a certain level of understanding in the period of time we have. but clearly, if you're doing it every day for 2 years, it's a very different situation to the chunks of 5 to 10 days that we have. So we're always trying to find commonality with all the players coming in who all play slightly different tactical systems. Even if several of the teams play 4-3-3, they all play that slightly differently. So inevitably, the timing of those runs and the expectations under pressure, you tend to revert back to habit, and those habits are generally grooved at the club, and the positions that players will take up and the positions that they tend to do their best work is what they kind of naturally evolve to. So you're always trying to marry those two things, really.
A lot of the fans we spoke to on Thursday night and Friday, a common theme was, why didn't they just boot it into row Z? You know, take the quick, the easy option and get rid of it. Would you sort of counter that England have got this far by doing the exact opposite of that?
Yeah, simple, really. You know, we've spent our lives as a nation. Well, it's not fair to say we've spent our lives playing that way, because we didn't play that way under Terry, and we didn't play that way under Glenn. And there have been other adaptations. We're obviously asking the players to play more from the back, but every team I've seen in the last however many years that's won a World Cup or a European Championship has been able to build from the back. And yes, I think we've moved past the days where I even walk on the local parks and hear parents shout, "Get it out of there!" And we can do that, but we won't be in semi-finals because we won't retain the ball well enough. So, yeah, the other night was painful, but we didn't lose the game because we were trying to play from the back. We lost because we made mistakes.
Joe, just finally from me. Obviously, this is the game no one wanted. Fans didn't want it. We don't want it. You guys don't want it. But for you coming in now, do you feel a bit of pressure? Because really, you've got to go and win this game.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be pressure playing for England, regardless. Whether it's a friendly or a competitive game like this one, you want to win every game, and there's an expectation to perform at a certain level that we all know comes with the territory. So, of course, we want to bounce back and make it right. I think that's what most players want to do after coming off the back of a loss, and we'd rather go into the rest of the summer on a positive note and leave it at that and move on. So yeah, of course we understand there's pressure and we have to take it on the chin.
So let's go to the last question, to the gentleman over there. Yes?
Tiago Mendes Dias, Lousa, Portugal. Hi, Gareth. I ask you what major strengths and weaknesses Switzerland team has, and what England has to do to overcome those obstacles that Switzerland team can pose.
Yeah, very, very strong at playing from the back, the conversation we've just had. They're a very settled team. You know, the team has been very consistent for a couple of years, really, in terms of the selection and the method of playing. They obviously have some key players within the system that play, Xhaka and Shaqiri in particular. But the whole team are comfortable with the ball. I like their patterns. I think the coach has done a brilliant job. And they should really have won the game to get to the quarter-final of the World Cup. So they were unfortunate not to go there. And they've shown that by knocking Belgium out of this competition. So tomorrow's a really, really good test for us.
Thank you, everybody. We will be back here at 14:45 with the Swiss coach and 2 players. There is a change in the players' names. The last minute, Seferovic is coming instead of